Welcome to the Occult Rejects. We are two former secret society members who were determined to show the public the truth that occultism has been purposely integrated into every aspect of society, from politics to music, Hollywood, and science. This is used to manipulate the public as a whole and to protect the fake elite. The symbols are used all around us to affect world events and public perception, our behavior, and even our future. We will translate the occult so that you have eyes to see. We reject their agenda to give you the tools to save yourself.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Occult Rejects with your hosts Lux
and the NY Patriot.
Coming at you today with episode 2 of the Finder series that we've been doing. Probably the darkest subject that we've covered so far. Something I wanted to bring up to you, dude, that I kind of find weird about this subject is like... Okay,
well, there's plenty of weird things about this subject, but yeah, again.
But this is like one that's... It's really crazy to me. So you go and you were to talk to like 50 people on the street. And let's say you just asked 50 people, hey, have you heard of 9/11 conspiracy? Probably all of them would say yeah. You know,
even older people might even like have heard of the conspiracy too. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, for sure.
Or JFK.
Yeah.
A bunch of different.
Oh, JFK is actually a real good one because I'd have to say like probably most of my family, uncles, aunts, parents and stuff. They all think that shit is messed up. Mm-hmm. Like they think something's definitely behind it. So that's actually a good one. JFK. That's like kind of like really covers all ages. Covers all ages.
Right. And then you were to ask any of those people, do you know who the Finders are? Which is it's so much darker than the JFK stuff. We're talking about human trafficking, the CIA, like this being uncovered by the FBI, all of these kids involved, the computer aspect of the whole thing that they were using back then. It's just, it's the conspiracy that more people need to know about. It's not even a conspiracy. It's a real story. Yeah. And more people need to know about it. So I was just thinking about that earlier.
That's it's a good point too, because it's like nobody knows about this, but I mean, then again, the stuff with JFK, if that was done on purpose, you know what I'm saying, or if it really was, or if it was presented to us in a different way, I'm sure that was meant to be on TV to get certain reactions and to get certain feelings. This stuff, they don't want people to know about. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It would be two totally different things to find out kids are being sex trafficked than the president just got his brains blown out. You know what I'm saying? Like It's a little different. You don't have to worry about your kid getting stolen and molested. That president just died. It's very different. So. And,
like you said, it's the reason why they probably push certain conspiracies is to elicit a reaction in even the community that's talking about conspiracies while keeping the stuff that they really don't want people talking about. Like the Finders, they keep that hidden. And let's just give this other stuff out for people to chew on so they don't look into what the Finders are,
Totally agree. Yes.
I mean, shit, we did the entire series on the Franklin cover-up. And even then doing that, we didn't find a lot of Finder stuff. But now when we've done the Finder stuff, we see how it connects to that. So it's like that's how well they hid the conspiracy, even though those things are related side by side.
That was funny because I think when we had even covered that, we had thought about possibly we've been talking about the Finders for a long time, I think we had even thought like, oh, maybe we could tie it into this, and for some reason, I guess maybe the way we were looking for, we were like, we really can't find much like on it, so I think we kind of like just left it alone, and then here we are now. We came across the FBI documents and was able to find the shit. So. But yeah, it's not too easy, in my opinion, to really find stuff on the Finders too, unless you come across the FBI documents.
Unless you know exactly what to look for.
Or keywords too. I've even had one time Jack Allen and Oddman. I had them on my show, and afterwards, I think they asked, they were like, "Yo, they're like, how do you and Lux like do your research? Like, how do you guys find the stuff you find?" And speaking for me, I said to them, a lot of times it's knowing. Well, what you want to look for, and then specific, sometimes keywords of things with it, and then somehow you'll sometimes get things that pop up. And that's when you start finding like the weird shady shit, because like you're tossing in other words in there that most people may not think of adding. And then you can start finding shit, and you're like, oh, wow, it's funny how it pops up now. You know?
Like if you were to just go to Google and type in the finders, it's going to be like, oh, would you like to find a job?
Yeah.
Would you like to find the nearest restaurant near you? Like, but if you type in a very specific, term like CIA and the finders, the FBI, and you put it a lot of times in quotations is where you get a lot more results.
Yeah.
So yeah, they make it hard to find some of this information for sure.
Or you could put like finders in warehouse or finders in farm, and then you'll start getting information about all that stuff. But without editing that, you probably won't, at least from my experience.
Yep. And then once you do find it, then at least you're able to go somewhere. Usually not on Google though. You got to go to Internet Archive. But this is one they do not want people talking about. I mean, this is some dark, dark shit. And for people who already listened to episode 1, we covered some of the dark stuff there. But what we're going to talk about today is specifically the documents that prove what we are saying here. This is not our opinion. This is legal FBI documents that were obtained from FOIA. And so this is not hypothesis. This is what they're saying in their own words. I think that's important to point out. It's not us just digging around over here.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Yeah, actually, and I'm glad you said that. I do want to just reiterate kind of what I did in the first episode. Yes, these papers that we're going to show you and stuff, they did come from the FBI. It's their stuff. Nothing was doctored up. Maybe some of the things we might add to it might be commentary, but the stuff that we are showing did come from them. So... anything else that maybe isn't that we might add that isn't on the paper, that could just be our commentary and our opinions, or what we think going around with the world around us and what we're looking at in society and just how things are put together. Any of the opinions that are not on the paper, that is just ours. We could be wrong.
Exactly.
I just want to put that out there. And as you can see, there's probably been a disclaimer already on the screen. Make this YouTube safe.
Oh, but you were trying to mention one more thing before we got into all the documents and stuff.
The computer issue. Unfortunately, this thing is really starting to take a shit on me. The thing will go black sometimes as I'm trying to do stuff. I got to shut the computer off, reboot it. It's really starting to become a problem to where I'm going to have to, within a few weeks, probably buy another one. Again, I'm not big on begging or asking for money, and we don't charge for any of our shit, and we don't put commercials in there. So, we're not getting an income from doing what we're doing. But I do want to reiterate that we will accept donations, and there is a Venmo and a Cash App link in the bottom. I'm going to be totally straight up honest with you. The computer I'm looking at that's going to run what the programs I have, the programs I use, I look at the specifications and what's needed. Unfortunately, if I want to go by that, the computer that I'm looking at is $2,000. It's basically a gaming computer. That's a huge chunk. I'll do it anyway for the show because I love doing this shit. But if I can get any other money from somebody else who wants to help donate to the show and help that happen, I'll be totally fine with that. If not, well, you'll just get better video quality for free anyway. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I mean, like I said, I know I hardly even mention it. Maybe I should more. I just feel fucking grimy sometimes. But yeah, for real, once I realize what I need is $2,000, I have no problem now saying, if you want to donate, that's cool. If not, that's cool too. Thank you regardless. So that's enough of that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the sheer amount of stuff that you're uploading, editing. I mean, it's a lot. So yeah, it's going to take its wear and tear, man. Mm-hmm. Hopefully we can take you, out of the Ford Pinto and get you into a Ferrari.
I'm in a fucking Gremlin right now.
Yeah.
And it sucks, honestly. Another problem too is that I have a laptop right now, so I can't even. I mean, listen, you can screw one open if you know what you're doing and maybe replace a few different things, but I'm not going to do that. And I'm sure if I took it to a place and told them I needed to do this, they'd say, we can't even make that happen with this. Just get a new computer. So I can't even upgrade this shit. I just have to get a new one, unfortunately. So It is what it is. It happens. It lasted 2 years. So I'm sure the other one that I'll get will probably last longer than the show.
Yep.
So, it's definitely worth it. To a sense to step up for that. So
for sure.
So I guess we can get into it now, if you're good to go, Lux.
Yes, sir.
I'll have some notes that I'll read off, and then I'll kind of go into the FBI files that I saved, some of the things that I thought was interesting. I have, you'll see what I got. I got a couple of different sections of stuff, but yeah, definitely pulled a lot of stuff from the FBI files. Just to get us up onto speed, I will kind of reiterate the first episode and just kind of repeat the whole story real quick, and then I'll go into the FBI stuff. And another reason why I'm also doing that too, and I think we mentioned it in the first episode, it's interesting to see what the news told you, and then interesting to see what the FBI actually found, which like wasn't after the news. You know what I'm saying? The news is putting out the news because the FBI is investigating, but like they're still not telling you everything the FBI is finding. So I find that just to be interesting in itself, the discrepancies or the differences between, you know, what people are being told and what the FBI actually knows. You know, there is a difference, in my opinion.
Well, and at that same time, I think it's important to remember that Project Mockingbird was still operating, right? So I mean, it's just a different name. They don't call it, you know, Mockingbird anymore. But during that time, they had people who were side by side working with the CIA and the news media to, you know, push certain stories and whitewash them, put them in a certain slant or direction that they wanted the public to perceive it. So,
You can tell nowadays they perfected that.
Yeah,
You know,
for real.
It's still going on.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, February, you know, this is what I have. There is also a little bit of discrepancy sometimes on, like, when I get to the children. I've seen anywhere from ages 1 to 11, 1 to 6, 1 to 7. When I've looked at the kids and pulled them up, I've only found, I think the oldest was 7, but sometimes they say from ages 1 to 11. But I think it's really between 1 and 7. Just want to clarify that. February 4th, 1987, the Tallahassee, Florida police were called about 2 men with a van with 6 kids. And I found this interesting only because we've come across the name before in Myers Park. I mean, I don't want to, like, make a stretch with that, but I mean, like, we've covered the Skinwalker Ranch. People own that were Myers prior with the same last name. You got Michael Myers. Like, I don't know, you know, that could just be a well-known or highly used name. It may not be like an unusual last name, but I don't know if anything to do with the park name was a reason why they were there, but, you know, they were in Myers Park. When they were questioned, they said that they were the teacher's kids. When they checked the van, according to them, there was a mattress, computers, 20 floppy disks, like you mentioned before, and it was basically just like a shit show. And they said they were on a road trip to Mexico to drop the kids off for a school for brilliant children, like you had mentioned in the first one. It's fucking weird in itself. And it was, they had and it was supposedly a white, they had a 1979 white Dodge van. And the 2 men that were with them were Michael Houlihan, or Holwell, or however you say his last name, you know, because he gave the cops a different last name originally, after they got done playing dead on the floor, I guess. And close your eyes, they can't see you if you can't see them.
Yeah.
It was Michael Houlihan, Holwell, whatever his name is, and then Douglas Ammerman. Houlihan. The kids, again, ranged from, I've seen 2 to 11, but I think it's like really 2 to 7 or 2 to 6 old. The one child that did kind of help with the authorities, there was really only one child that came out and said much. That was supposedly Mary Houlihan, who might have actually been the daughter of Michael Houlihan. She claims that they lived in a building in Washington with her mother and mostly old women. A few men and other kids were there, but for the most part, she states it was mostly like women and kids. Supposedly it wasn't a Forster house, though, which is like another thing. At first they thought it might have been a Forster house. It wasn't anything like that either, supposedly. And, when asked who the leader of the house was, they only knew of the name the Game Caller or the Stroller, we talked about previously. That seems to be the name that at least Mary, I don't know if all the kids, but at least Mary, that was the only name she knew of this guy by. She didn't know his real name. At the house, they often played games together. They had weird games like the whole shirt game. Mary says that she would, the kids would take one of their shirts off, the men's shirts off that had a hole in it, and then go run somewhere else and go make more holes in the shirt, and then they would take it back to the guy and they'd put it back on. Very, very weird. Like you had mentioned, also I think in the first one, the kids were showed various household items that they really couldn't identify, like a typewriter, hot water, stapler, or computers. They didn't even know what the hell any of that shit or the names for it was. That's disturbing in itself right there. They were also malnourished and had bites on their body. And none of the kids, they also said none of them were wearing underwear when they were supposedly found. CPS took the kids when the two men were arrested, and the children were checked for rape. And two of the kids, unfortunately, did show signs of rape. Mary and Max. Supposedly those two showed signs of rape. Mary says they were all fed a raw fruit and vegetable diet and was basically fed as a reward, kind of. The Tallahassee police called over to the Washington Police Department to see if they could help identify them, the kids themselves. They couldn't help them much, but did state the kids could be part of the cult, the Finders, that reside in Glover Park, Washington. And the only reason they even knew that they existed was from a few past calls that came in about them. Because they have had calls about these people before, but I think they kind of just blew it off and didn't think it was all that important. The police did go to the known warehouse to question them about the children, but no one was there also. They were also known for owning a rural farmland in Virginia. The cops received a tip from someone who says they were recruiting into the cult as well. So, a lot of stuff, in my opinion, was going on with this, and so many people neither dropped the ball or they were just told not to be bothered. That's my opinion. That's when the commentary comes in. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't seem to make sense. The cops, had even received a tip from somebody calling them, telling them that they were trying to be recruited into the cult, and she said the cult was into brainwashing, legit washing your brain of everything, almost like when you go to reformat a hard drive. That's kind of like what the lady was getting at. They're wiping everything from your head and then putting in what they want you to know and believe.
Like MK Ultra.
Yes, that's what I got out of that from what this person was saying.
Driving that they would do to totally wipe someone's brain.
And the same person who called up and stated this to the cops even told them that children there, this person claimed that children were also being used in rituals. So, they've been told this stuff prior to their first arrest. When the police went back to the warehouse again, with a search warrant, I think this time, they found pictures of children that almost looked like school photos, but weren't. We talked about that in the beginning. Was that kind of modeling headshots, unfortunately? Who knows? When Mary was questioned about going to school in Mexico, she had said, "I don't go to school." According to her, she wasn't even going to school prior to, so I think, that even sounds weird. There were also, and when they went to the warehouse, there was also pics of the children naked, and there was pics of, they state children in ritual settings. Some of them did show animal sacrifice, and there was one child supposedly in chains in one of the pictures that they found. The warehouse also... they found out after they went and I wouldn't say raided it, but whatever. They went there, did the search warrant. The warehouse also had apartments that people did live in too. They would also rent out. They would rent out rooms as low as $5 a night. Now I understand this was back in the day, but I think even then that's probably got to be cheap as shit. Enough to where I'd probably even question what kind of place is this I'm even staying.
Yeah, it's definitely for those in the know. You know.
They did get and the cops did talk to some surrounding people in some areas when they went to the warehouse, and when they went to other places, they did try to talk to some of the police people in the areas. There was a man and a wife that had stayed there. A few nights at this warehouse, basically in between finding a new place. They just decided we'll stay here until then. And he claims one night he heard a kid crying for about an hour, and it even made him complain about it. So you have that statement from that dude. He even thought something weird was going on. Some other pieces of the information found was about the game caller, the stroller, was a man named Marion Petty. We mentioned that before. They found out that he founded the cult in the early 1970s and was a former Air Force Master Sergeant, a.k.a. Master of Games. Very interesting. Called him a game caller, but yet his Air Force thing can also be considered Master of Games. So I find that very interesting. Mm-hmm. He supposedly loosely based its teachings on the writings of the philosopher, I'm going to fuck this up, Lao Tzu, whatever is the Laotzu. I can tell you right now, I should know the name better. I can tell you right now that if you wanted to get into the Astrum Argentum or Crowley's AA, you have to take a test and you have to read books prior to that. One of his books is on there. So his shit is something you're going to have to read for the Astrum Argentum. So maybe something's up with that or not. He retired in 1956 and bought the Virginia farmhouse in the 1960s and started the cult there. Supposedly, he had an idea to raise children in groups instead of just two people, and more of like an indigenous tribe. That was supposedly what he was going for. Hence, also, I guess, why you can say the animal killings were also justified. Neighbors in the area had also said that it was mostly women and children living in that warehouse also, but sometimes men would come by for a time. People also said that the windows were boarded up as well and was locked with a heart-shaped lock. I know this is probably out there in a stretch, but as soon as I read that the first time, I was like, oh, fuck, Kurt Cobain's heart-shaped box. Mm-hmm. But because, I mean, look at him. I would not be surprised if he was MK Ultra that grown up in a cult. I hate to say it. But.
Well, one thing I was gonna mention before we get too much further, before we get off of the school stuff, is I had recently, just like in the last week, because I've been sick as shit, was watching a bunch of documentaries, and there's one that I came across where this guy was like talking about this school, and it was a school for, highly intelligent kids, and Lady Gaga, along with a bunch of other musicians, were like recruited to go to this special school for gifted kids. And the way that they do it is like they keep track of test scores across the country of what kids are testing at like the highest level, and then they quote unquote recruit them into this special school. It really reminds me of what we're talking about right now.
That's really interesting. Now I don't know what to do about this topic, but originally, who knows, it could be a fucking month or two from now, but Teresa, who helps co-host my NY Patriot show, has been almost digging into like the same thing with Nixium, looking into a school that Keith Raniere was involved with that she actually thinks might be something going on there with recruiting.
Related?
Yes, yeah, for sure. And now I'm wondering, like, what you're just saying right now sounds like the same situation. And now I'm like thinking, should we all maybe take a look at this stuff? But that's very interesting how she's even been telling me that she's been digging into that like hard. Like she's like, I know there's a connection, and she's starting to find like the spider web parts. So that's very interesting how you even mentioned that too. And the police also showed the pictures of the 6 kids to the surrounding neighbors by the warehouse, and they did get somebody who did tell them that they recognized 2 of them. They said that the other 4 they don't think they've seen, but for sure 2 out of the 6 kids, they almost positive they've seen them before. The police eventually made it over to the Virginia farmhouse. They found books, Garmin, furniture, toys and diapers and random shit like that. Neighbors in the area said they noticed vans transporting children to and from the place, coming and going. Since the neighbors had kids of their own, they were nervous about saying anything. That is because they had kids and they thought they might have been doing shady shit with kids. They were afraid to call and tell on them because they thought they may do something to their kids. I mean, that's kind of shitty and fucked up. I mean, I understand the fear, but whatever. The Tallahassee Police Department did come out and make a statement saying this is no longer a kidnapping case, and it's a lot bigger than that. They were led to believe this cult would have its members hand over their kids to the cult as a way of getting in as well. Even though the whereabouts and locations of the children were not made public knowledge, somehow some of them still got death threats and calls over the phone from untraceable numbers. So I even, like, in order for that to happen, I mean, back then in the day, I really don't know if, like, that information was hackable. Then, you know what I'm saying? Or could you really dox somebody back then? So I'm wondering, like, is this because of somebody on the inside leaking shit out? It's just very shady.
Yeah.
The police eventually came across Robert Terrell, who was looked at as kind of like the leader and the spokesperson, a.k.a. Ronald Reagan. We showed you before in the first one. And got an interview with him. And, like, again, I just mentioned, he even wore a disguise that looked like Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
He claimed a lot of this stuff was blown out of proportion due to the satanic panic going around at the time. This man says the other two guys with the van were actually supposed to be going to Berea, Kentucky, at the invitation of Reverend Jim Walker to complete plans and to begin construction on a place called New Hope, a retirement community. Terrell said he planned to be the comptroller for the project, and funny thing, a comptroller, that's kind of the person who handles the money. How convenient. He was going to be the comptroller, and Terrell said that he planned to be the comptroller for the project, and described Weicker as his mentor. According to Terrell, Stanley Burns and Ammerman left the nation's capital in early January for Berea, Kentucky, with the 6 children. Yeah, the children and the mothers did authorize the men to take them, and they even supposedly had letters of authorization stating that they let them do that. When they arrived in Berea, they found out that Weicker was not ready for the project. During that time, the children were cared for by Willis and Lucille Hunting, proprietors of the Montessori school where the children would have been enrolled for the duration of the New Hope project. So if the New Hope project would have went through, and if they would have done that, I think they were looking at like 6 months or something, or whatever amount of time they thought that was going to take. These kids were supposedly going to get enrolled in that school until they were done with the project. And it was called Montessori School by Willis and Lucille Hunting. The men then, because that fell through, took the children on a vacation/camping trip to Florida with the approval of their mothers who were in San Francisco. Remember, they were given papers even stating it was okay for all this. Terrell said he and 4 other men, Michael Holwell, a.k.a. Michael Houlihan, Christian Herbst, Thomas R. Van Dusen, and Robert M. Meyer, another Meyer, went to Florida to assist with the care of the kids. When the arrest occurred, 3 of the men had left for the day to look for accommodations in Tallahassee area, supposedly leaving the kids with Houlihan and Ammerman. So technically, even going by this, there was 3 other dudes that were with them. They just got caught when it was only 2 of them. So Michael and Douglas, after they got off the floor and stopped playing dead, had told the cops they were going to Mexico with the other, and when the other men are saying something else, going to Kentucky on vacation. So you had those 2 guys that they busted. They said they're going to Mexico, and then when the cops spoke to the other guys, they were saying, no, we're going to Kentucky. So you already got mixed fucking shit to begin with. So, yeah. And then eventually, I'll add this in, explanations for the goat slaughter pics was technically fathers of the children wanting to teach their children at a very young age how to survive in the wild. As for the naked pictures, it was said, what parent doesn't have a photograph of his child at some point without any clothes on? That's their excuse for the naked children. For the complaints of the screaming child at the warehouse, where they had the rooms for rent, the answer for the screaming child was, anyone who knows children knows that when they are delighted, they scream. Quote, Robert Terrell. These are his excuses for why these things happen. I'm sorry, but you got to come up with a better one than that, my man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, oh, the kids were excited. That's where they're screaming. Oh, yeah, and I got 20 photos in my wallets of my kid naked that I show off to people. Come on.
Yeah, and you know what that kind of shows to me is he's not trying. The reason why he's not trying is because he knows he's not going to get caught. Like, he's not going to get in trouble. So he knows that, you know, they can ask him a question. He can make up any bullshit in the world because he's so cocky and arrogant. He knows he's not going to get arrested. He's the CIA, you know, like,
yeah.
So he's untouchable. So when people think that they're untouchable, they don't build up elaborate excuses.
Yeah, you just give you kind of spin like the libtard thing. You know, like when we watch the debates and they ask them a question and they just kind of spin you in circles and never fucking answer it. It's basically what he's doing here. And it's been perfected now on the TV.
Exactly, yeah.
Now we'll get into some of my the FBI documents that I had pulled from the FBI documents. These are all from the FBI documents. I don't know if I put the link in the original one, but I'll put a link in there too. This is all from them. This is not us, not photoshopped. This came straight from the FBI. And during the two searches executed in 1987, on 12/4/93, WMFO obtained photocopies of two U.S. District Court search warrants. So, the search warrant, case number 87-00 blah, 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 was executed on 2587 and 2687 at Redacted Warehouse, Northeast Washington, D.C. The return portion of this warrant was dated 2687 and signed by Detective Redacted in the presence of Detective Redacted. The following notations were contained on the return portion of the warrant: inventory of person or property taken pursuant to the warrant. Basically, what they found there was an IBM computer, Macintosh computer, compact computer 280, assorted software and manuals, assorted personal papers, data fax, data transfer machine, assorted papers and photos. There was a notation besides these items: kitchen closet. There was assorted papers, photos, and documents also that were taken. Search warrant, case number 87, blah, 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 that was executed on 2587 at Redacted. The returned portion of this warrant was dated 2687. And basically, instead of reading all this, this is what they found there. A Metro call. Well, one of the things looks redacted already, but you got to wonder about that. Metro call data call 928-8071. A Canon electronic calculator and assorted papers and checks. Macintosh Plus computer printer and disk. Extron computer printer and disk, assorted papers, telephone answering machine and tapes, assorted papers, notebooks, photographs, documents, notes, documents, papers, documents, portfolio. All this stuff that they found. So they did find stuff there. And then I even have here, reiterated that hard driven to Kentucky to set up a retirement village called New Hope. Like I said before, so, that's not made up. This is in the FBI stuff, too. The kids were going to be placed in a Montessori school. The retirement village was still in the planning stages. The group of children were still in the planning stages. The group of children and the two adults left for an advantage in Florida. The other members of the finders joined the group, and she identified them as Redacted. Redacted advised that she has known all these people for a minimum of Redacted and trusts all of them. She did not believe any of them were involved in child abuse. She advised that various members of the group participated in group sex, but that they were careful that the children were not around when it occurred.
Okay.
Yeah. Most of the time, she said the children were in bed when it occurred. She said she has a bedroom listening device commonly put in the infant's room to monitor them. So, they're making sure the kids don't know. She advised the mothers were going to Tallahassee, Florida that afternoon in an attempt to see their children. She stated that she felt the children were generally taken care of and all the mothers loved and were concerned for the welfare of the children. I know, like, this person sounds like they're kind of sticking up for them. The reason I read this is because she does admit, though, that they were, like, having group sex. So, I mean, like, right there, I mean, not to blow that off, but, like, she is admitting that.
And how is that? That's not normal.
No, I was going to say, like, whatever. My opinion, again, I'm not a prude and I'm not vanilla, but to me, that's even, like, a little, whatever. People are into whatever, but to me, that's still even, like, that's drastic. That's not for me. My opinion,
Well,
that's going a little far.
And it sounds like they're having just straight up orgies. Well,
yes.
The kids are in just a couple of rooms away. They're not going to hear that. Like, come on, like, get real. Mm-hmm. And I don't believe pretty much anything that they say there, especially the part about how maybe involved the kids were.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Now, this does come from the D.C. Police Department. It was, one of their reports under possible child pornography. On October 22nd, 1991, the undersigned received a telephone notification from Officer Redacted, 5th District Uniform, Midnight Section, home telephone number redacted, whatever. Officer blah blank redacted advised that he and two footman officers redacted have observed activity which they believe is suspicious in nature. The officers have observed numerous well-dressed males who operate rental cars and expensive luxury type models enter the building located at Redacted at late and early morning hours. The subjects in their vehicles do not fit the area in which this building is located, namely the market area of NE. At least one occasion, the officers have observed adult males with a young male child enter the building. This occurred after the Midnight Section had reported for duty on the street. Another occasion, Officer Redacted stopped a van after it was observed leaving the building in the early morning hours. The van displayed tags which were not listed to a van. The operator identified himself as Redacted. He told the officer, Redacted, that he did research stuff in quotation points. He also stated that he babysat children for diplomats. Officer Redacted advised the undersigned that the building and the neighborhood is not fit for babysitting activity, especially after midnight. The subject's story was very suspicious to the officer.
Well, no shit, officer. That is suspicious. And obviously to me, this is DC police at their finest. I mean, you couldn't knock on the door, right? Knock on the door, hey, do a welfare check. I see a lot of kids coming in and out of here. Mind if I walk through real quick? They can't do that.
Yeah.
They couldn't do that, They sit there and they observe all this suspicious stuff, but then they pull him over and he's like, yeah, I babysit kids for diplomats. And the cop's like, that's it. You're fine. Good to go, sir. Have a nice day.
Yo, I don't know if it's because of the times, maybe because of the world the way it is now, but I can tell you right now, even if I was to get pulled over and I gave that answer to a cop, the next word out of his mouth would probably be, can you please step out of the vehicle?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Exactly. Somehow this made sense back then. I don't know.
Well, I thought, it could have been a different time.
That's what I'm saying too. Like maybe they're just, okay. You were just too naive, maybe.
Like the guy who escaped from Jeffrey Dahmer's house, and then the police took him back to Jeffrey Dahmer's house.
Yo, that is the most fucked. This guy's got a hole in his head.
Yeah.
a hole in his head. And I think Dahmer he might have already like drilling a hole and dumped shit in his head, and he's like half retarded walking around the street, and the cops literally bring him back because Dahmer was like, "Oh no, that's my drunk boyfriend." What the fuck?
So maybe it was a different time. I don't
Yeah,
know. Still, it's like
I'm hoping that's what it is.
yeah.
You know? I found this interesting. This came from, again, the same Metropolitan Police Department in D.C. This is in the FBI files. Some point inside the investigation for this, the van is listed to redacted, white male redacted. The vehicle is described as a redacted again. But officer redacted advised that to the best of his recollection, this building is the same building which was raided by the police approximately redacted years ago for some type of child pornography. So now you're even having a cop making recollection that this building has been raided before for child pornography.
Mm-hmm.
I got this that I pulled out of here. I thought there was some interesting stuff. The commune became an attraction for local residents who would drive to the area to observe people in plastic tents and conducting their activities in the nude. As the hippie movement diminished, Ragged Mountain Ranch also fell into obscurity. However, it came to the attention of the Virginia State Police, Bureau of Criminal Investigations and Arsons Unit in 1980, following a fire which destroyed a residence and barn on the Ragged Mountain Ranch premises. This property has been occupied by Redacted, who alleged they had been associates of the subject Redacted until a break in their relationship. They moved from Northern Virginia to Ragged Mountain Ranch, where they Redacted. They alleged that Redacted burned them out following an argument over a division of real estate. That one I was just really kind of bringing up and going into is because of that ranch or that property that they have. Obviously, it sounds like it was like a nudist colony to an extent.
Well, and we'll get into this in episode 3, but that name Ragged Mountain Ranch.
Oh, it's still active.
It's important to remember because not only is it a ranch, it's also a registered research facility, but they don't say it.
Wow.
So we'll get into that in episode 3, but yeah, there's an actual research facility there under that name, research facility.
Yeah. I'm on the same paper right here. Yeah, and you know what's funny? That was a thing that I had, for episode 3. I figured I would that's funny that you mentioned it because that was one of the ideas that I had looking into that ranch because it's still open, I think, if I'm not wrong. Another thing here, Redacted said he came to learn that the cult was merely a front for Redacted, who converted the members' money to his own use. Redacted said he was given finders. Redacted, however, all he wants to do now is to get out of the organization, does not care how the money was sent. So there was somebody who even thinks that, a lot of the money was basically, like most cults, when you see it, you're giving your shit over to somebody and they're not using it for what they're telling you.
Yeah.
And he feels that his money was used to purchase Redacted. But out of the multi-apartment residence located at Redacted and uses, he used a number of bank accounts to hide the funds obtained from the group members. Unfortunately, sometimes when I'm reading this shit and all the redacted stuff, the sentences can kind of start sounding confusing, and I might have to catch myself and reword it. But, yeah. They also utilize the warehouse located at Redacted. This location is a front for the organization and operates as a food distribution point for the needy. Fucking crazy.
I wonder why some of this stuff... Do you think this was redacted years ago? Or do you think this was redacted recently before they released these documents?
I had thought about that, and I really don't know what to think about that. I was like, was this stuff redacted originally? Or is it something that came after the fact? I don't know. But I have wondered that too.
Because it's just weird that some of this stuff is redacted when it doesn't seem like it's necessary at all. Like the name of an officer. Like, he's definitely not still an officer. There's some of this stuff that could be public knowledge, but just basic stuff that seems like should be shared as being redacted.
Yeah. Then I do have this, and I do think this is all kind of stuff from somebody who wanted to leave the Finders. Blank is currently blank. However, blank will not tolerate anyone leaving the cult. Redacted feels his experience to date with respect to the harassing letters and threats have all been related to his attempt to leave the cult. Redacted also uses group members as enforcers to apply physical pressure as well as psychological pressure. So basically, if you want to leave, they're going to start fucking with you. Well, anyway. Both individuals are violence prone. So-and-so said the harassment campaign utilizes letters to apply psychological pressure, and these are followed up by personal visits from Redacted. Redacted related an incident occurring in January 1983, which involves a cult member, Barbara Sylvester Matasia, who attempted to leave the group. Well, according to this, she was physically restrained in Redacted residence. Matasia subsequently became ill and required medical attention. Redacted refused to allow her to obtain this attention, and she died on the premises. Redacted said he does not believe that there was any police investigation of the death. Redacted came to Culpeper, Virginia, in Redacted, and leased an office on Redacted. This space was to be used for a business to be known as Finders, a consultant service available to the community, which would match clients and services and provided information and assistance in any manner. In addition, Redacted also purchased a residence located at Redacted, which was used by Redacted to temporarily house members of the cult. Redacted said the business did not get started when he realized what Redacted was doing to the cult members. They do like to threaten their people if they want to leave, and looks like somebody may have died because of wanting to leave and then not letting them leave. It's pretty fucked up. This was another thing that I had found in the FBI documents, heading number 46, section General News, Children, the Dateline, Tallahassee, Florida, February 9th, 1987. There is evidence of sexual abuse involving more than one of the 6 children found hungry and dirty in a park last week with 2 apparent members of a mysterious cult, police said. In quotations, we now know more than 1 child is abused, police spokesman Scott Hunt said Sunday. The children, aged 2 to 6, are in custody of the state health officials and under police guard following arrest last Wednesday of the 2 men. So there you go. Even in the FBI files, again, they are mentioning that these kids did experience some horrible stuff. Other stuff that was seized from them that I think is important to know: seizure of numerous documents made to include passports, telexes, computer and electronic media, correspondences to other places. Additional search warrant executed on farm in rural Virginia with support by Virginia State Police. There was no federal involvement, but there was evidence of satanic or cult ritual, there. So again, more stuff that they're saying in these FBI files that they have from either the FBI or it's files that the FBI pulled from, police places, the police departments. This is the stuff that was found. Terrell saying, this is something that Robert Terrell saying, that the ceremony was held for the children. He said it was meant to be educational experience so they could see the insides of the goats. I don't know why that's educational and why you got to know what's inside of a goat, but okay, that's Robert Terrell. Robes were worn to make an impression on the youngster, he said, to bring home the seriousness of killing an animal that was slaughtered for its meat. So again, like I mentioned before, Robert Terrell's excuses, this is even in the FBI documents, this is supposedly what he said. One such telex specifically ordered the purchase of 2 children in Hong Kong to be arranged through a contact in the Chinese embassy there. That's fucking wild. That's even in the FBI documents. Identified interests in high-tech transfers to the United Kingdom. Numerous properties under the control of the Finders, a keen interest in terrorism, explosives, and the evasion of law enforcement. I mean, they're saying that they're even finding, books. They literally had written, their own things on how to do all this stuff. how to understand terrorism, explosives, and how to stay away from the cops. Supposedly, like, they had even pamphlets or whatever, like things already for their people.
Well, that's why the guys who were initially arrested and went in for questioning, that's why they had that little piece of paper that said, you know, I will not talk to any police. Here's like a contact number. They had to like get a hold of someone from the CIA, remember?
Yes.
Because they invoked the Fifth. Mm-hmm. They had that weird little business card in their wallet that was, you know, going over all that. And that's probably this part of this right here. Them figuring out how to avoid police. And if they do get caught, they already have a safeguard for it.
Yeah. I mean, really, to be totally honest with you, like, if all this shit is all set up, the best thing would be just to shut the fuck up until someone tells you what to say. Or let somebody else speak for you, you know? Right. And I do want to stress this. There was also a set of instructions which appeared to broadcast. And the reason I want to stress this is because we're talking about all the stuff that they found, that the FBI found. You know, it's all in here. Things that they found. Now, think about the stuff that they found. And then after I read this, you can wonder, like, what wasn't there? There were also a set of instructions which appeared to be broadcasted via a computer network, which advised participants to move the children and keep them moving through different jurisdictions and instructions on how to avoid police attention. Mm-hmm. There is also other stuff that I hope, because now I forgot, I may have left it out, but there is things in there where they do actually even suspect that these people were tipped off prior to even raiding the place.
Oh, yeah.
So now I'm wondering, because me and Lux had even said this before, I'm wondering, could they have had that equipment for multiple reasons in the van? Could there have been a thing where every 4 to 6 hours or whatever it is, you got to just call up and be like, yo, I'm still good. If we don't hear from you in a certain amount of time, we consider you arrested, and then we clean house and set up our bullshit story. Could that have been what was going on?
It's like a dead man's switch.
Yes.
So if they don't hear back from one of the parties, then immediately this protocol is put into place where they start to move the kids.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
They even stated in the FBI files, this is a crazy thing, this guy, Lieutenant Hart of Culpeper, Virginia, he stated that Petty himself would probably go to Andrews Air Force Base and get a military plane flight to China. So they're even thinking that these people could run because of their, the things that they're associated with.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now I have, I did try to, out of 600 pages, the FBI stuff was 600 pages. For you to even try to, put them into subjects and split them up, it was a little hard. I did the best that I thought I could. But now this stuff is kind of more of actual reports on the kids and what came out of the kids' mouths. I already know I kind of covered some of that, but now this is specific stuff on the kids that was in the FBI files that either came from the FBI or it came from basically kind of either the feds or the feds taking this from the police department. They said before Christmas. They said they have no Christmas. They also stated they do not see their mothers much, that they are being weaned from their mothers. They said they didn't go to school. They said that the two men teach them. I asked them what they teach them. They said games and how to read. They said they did things for rewards. I asked what type of things they got rewards for, and they said working. And they said they got food as rewards. They said the adults had to do what the game caller said, and the adults told the children what to do. They said they were not allowed inside the house. They said they were hungry and had not eaten since this morning. I asked what they ate, and they said raw vegetables and fruit. They were transported to the police department and turned over to HRS. The two men were arrested for child abuse. See officer redacted and investigator, or whatever that is, redacted report. So there you go. That's another fucking... They have to do good things to eat, to get food as a reward, like I said before. Stuff like oranges, bananas, and carrots, raw potatoes. Terrell confirmed that police had seized slaughtered goats and naked pictures of the children, but said they were innocent explanations for each. The goats were brought from the group's farm in Virginia after slaughter, and parents thought the children should be taught the experience. Again, and I'm going to reiterate what he said again. This is even in print now. As for the photographs, he said, what parent doesn't have a photograph of his child at some point without any clothes on? He identified Holwell, one of the men being held in Tallahassee, as stepfather to one of the children and natural father of another. He said he is angry at reports that the children on their Virginia properties were frequently heard by neighbors screaming. Anyone who knows children knows that when they are delighted, they scream. So there again, like I know I said that before, but there it is in black and white. Both Max and Mary advised that women had come downstairs at Christmas time with no clothes on. So then again, all right, so like they said before, the lady said there was no screwing going around, but I guess walking around naked does. So both children felt that this was very funny and went along with the concept of it being a game. Max also reiterated that Mary had conveyed to the investigator about not being allowed to live in the house. He stated that the men were told to put the kids outside and that they would like to make the men stay outside. Mary demonstrated how she was able to count to 10 in Chinese also. She stated that she had learned to count in Chinese from a Chinese man who guested at the W Street address. Now, again, before, there was people who I think did make statements. They thought that, I don't know if I'll get into it, but there was supposedly people, I think neighbors mentioning that people would show up at their house instead by accident, thinking they were going to the warehouse, looking for either a Chinese embassy or a youth hostel. So, search warrants. Based on the information received from the source and from authorities in the state of Florida, Redacted authorized a search warrant for the premises of Redacted, Washington, D.C. Search warrants were executed for the premises of Redacted by members of the MPD Intelligence Division on February 7th, 1986. Although no children were found, large documents dealing with child rearing and shaping were recovered, along with manuals for master plans and dirty tricks for enemies of the Finders Group. Sound like fucking goddamn Scientologists now.
Yeah, really.
This is a quote by Scott Hunt from it's probably the Tallahassee Police Department, TPD. It is our belief these kids were not kidnapped, but their parents gave them away because one of the rites of passages into this satanic organization is that you have to give up your rights to your children, and that the leaders of this organization can do what they want with your children. That is what the cops thought.
Jeez.
Yeah. Jeez. Jesus, right. Yeah, and then I think I might actually be done. I mean, there was a couple of things. You can't even read it real quick. I'll just mention it, and then I can throw it up on the screen. For some reason, too, in the FBI files, I don't know what reason they did it, they did also run a search to see, and this blew my mind, too. Thinking about, I don't know when this was done. But, I mean, if this was a while ago, I'm getting out of this that they had the technology to actually scan the internet or scan things and were able to pick up even stuff popping up in the news with certain things. Like it literally looks like that something was ran to be able to have news articles. Like there's a section where somebody ran something and all the news articles that are associated with the Finders came up. I found that weird in the FBI. I was just, I don't know. Is there something behind that? Just very weird.
Well, I mean, remember, the CIA created the internet. I mean, they're the ones who created it, So I'm sure that even back then in the 80s, they had some type of search feature, which would be the Onion or Tor browser, deep web. There's probably something that they could do to search for people like God knows what, man. I mean, that's nuts to me that they even had that technology wirelessly
I mean, that's a good point too that I do want to make. And then this is just my opinion. You just said that the CIA, they made Tor, the Onion router. The government, I mean, the fucking internet that we're using, the TCP/IP, that was made by the fucking government. This is just my opinion. Yeah, you may want to use VPNs and all these fucking encrypted things, but in my honest opinion, that's just saving you from an asshole that's going to hack you. If the government wants to know what the fuck you're doing, considering they've made all these things, in my opinion, they'll know what you're doing. You know, so like I think like, you know, whatever, all those things sound nice and cute if you don't want to get harassed by an asshole, but I really honestly think if somebody of importance in the government wants to know what the fuck you're texting, typing, writing, they're going to know regardless because we're using their technology to do it.
You're right. There's backdoors into all
Yeah. But real quick, there was something in the Gainesville Sun about it that came up. Another news article, children's case takes more bizarre turns. The Associated Press put that out. There was another one, D.C. police finders odd, not criminal. That Washington Post, 210/87. There was another one that came up, inquiry spreads on 6 children and cult. There was even a news article about that. This one from the New York Post, 3487, finders to sell D.C. property move to Florida. Another one that was from 3/18/87, the Washington Post, 2 finders released, abuse charges dropped. Another one, share the farm plan now offered, and this is by M.D. Petty, Ragged Mountain Farm, Sperryville, Virginia. Maybe this one I'll read because we were talking about that. At our Ragged Mountain Farm, Sperryville, Virginia, we have decided to experiment with a new idea. Share the farm plan. As a participant, we would like to agree to pay $1 per week only. Nothing more, and you would receive the following privileges. Immediately, 1 bushel of high-quality apples. You pay shipping charges only or pick them up at the farm. Free bed with full housekeeping facilities in one of our hostels at any time for 1 night or stay all year if you like. Your relatives or friends as guests can pay 50 cents per night if beds are available. Camping for friends and relatives. Well, free camping for friends and relatives. You further receive 100th share of organic fruit produced on our property in 1964. I'm not going to read all this, but as you can see, there was something going on with this Ragged Mountain Farm in them. You know. This is just another news thing. Clues to finders' cult activities turn up at a remote Madison Farms. And that is enough for me running my mouth. I'm done. I hope that all made sense. Yeah, it probably will after I edit all my fuck-ups. But again, like me trying to present those 600 pages in a chronological order or in a way that kind of made sense was a little hard. But I hope, you got what I was trying to get at. I'm just trying to show, the actual proof and what really was stated by the police and the FBI and not what was told to us in the news or just told to us regardless.
Yeah, and I guess for me, I guess before we jump off, I definitely want to hear your opinion on these games. Like, we just got done talking about it. What, in your opinion, why would they play those types of games? Why would you teach a kid with a whole shirt, if it's got a hole in the shirt, to run away? Like, I'm just trying to problem solve it. You know what I'm saying? Like, what would the purpose of that be?
My opinion,
what type of training is it?
Training to get the kids used to people being naked and doing weird things. Like that's my opinion.
Maybe, dude, it's like I think they do it in different degrees. So they start off with like, oh, here's a holy shirt. Mm-hmm. Oh, next here's a pair of pants. You got to get the change out of the pants, and then it probably progresses to something. So it's like grooming.
Yes, and I think the fact that you get fed after that is huge. That's because honestly, I hate to say it. I know even for myself, if it was the point to where I was starving, maybe I would do something or say something that maybe I wasn't quite happy with just to get food. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, the kids, I could see a kid easily just being like, oh, well, I just got to do this and I can finally eat. Okay, fine. Especially when you're not old enough to know this is wrong.
And then the games get crazier and crazier and crazier until they've got them totally brainwashed to do whatever the finders want them to do.
That could even go back to the whole brainwashing, like the person that lady stated, where it was like really wiping you like a hard drive. That could all be part of it as well. I have, that's my ideas and theories. I think a lot of these games, like you said, there's actually no reasoning or justifying it. And I think it's all programming or getting kids used to stuff.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's wild. The Chinese connection is just another aspect of this whole thing that is I didn't expect to see.
Yeah. I probably left them in another folder and screwed it up. If I can find it before I actually make this episode, I'll throw it up either now or before. But I know for a fact I came across a few things where there was China or the embassy was involved. And I know for a fact inside those papers, like I said before, when they spoke to neighbors, there were people who said people came to their place by accident looking for a Chinese embassy or a youth hostel. And then realizing, oh, no, it's the warehouse next door. Oh, that's the warehouse a few houses down. But people were going to wrong houses thinking they were going to the warehouse for that shit. That's fucking weird.
Especially since it's an embassy that's involved with that. It makes me think,
right?
Like, man, were these diplomats, especially since he had said that he babysits diplomats' kids, were these literal diplomats who were, they knew that it was a warehouse, but they say it's an embassy or some shit like that. So maybe they were tied to the Chinese government itself, and.
Well, that was the thing that I was thinking. I'm like, either that's just like, you freestyled some crazy excuse, but then you do see it over and over again. Could it have been a keyword, or which I don't think so? I actually do think, unfortunately, there may have actually been something really going on with the Chinese embassy, possibly. I mean, they said that there was, in the FBI documents, they said something was going along with, the fax machine going to Chinese embassy to buy 2 children.
Yep.
Now, it doesn't mean China itself could have been involved, but you could have had a screwed up person in that embassy.
Mm-hmm. Or someone that had been put into that position at the embassy, They
could have been from here and put in that position.
Exactly. Because we would have, in China, we have a U.S. embassy. So, so like even in downtown D.C., like all the different embassies are pretty close to each other.
Yeah, so that's
just wild.
Very, very shady with that stuff for sure, I think.
Yeah.
That almost brings a whole other level of like what the hell was going on.
Yep.
And I don't know how I forgot this too. Just to make it, I'll throw up the picture if I can find it. I forgot to show it, but like at some point in the documents, it does say this case has been closed due to it being connected with the CIA.
Yeah.
I'm gonna probably have to find that now to make sure this doesn't get blocked or fucking taken down on YouTube, but that's fucking in there. They do admit it that the thing was stopped because the CIA was involved with them.
Yeah, and they label it a internal matter, right?
Yes, and the crazy thing too that I had even found, I really gotta hope I can find all this shit in my computer before I make this. They even stated that in their opinion, the CIA stated in their opinion, the Finders cult is not a problem until they're given orders or directives of something to do. How the fuck do you come out and say that in the same statement?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, again, back in the 80s, people were naive. Maybe you don't notice what you're reading or what's being said to you. But, like, that actually just told you they're only safe until we tell them what to do.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? Come on.
Here's that...
Or maybe you got it. You could show
that thing you were just talking about. Let me see if you can pull that up. About it being an internal matter.
Nice.
This is what I have. I don't know if this is necessarily from the FBI documents, but it is. Says exactly what you just said right here.
Yeah. Yeah, look at that. Same exact thing.
Yep. And that's the Metropolitan Police Department. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
They started digging around too much, and eventually the CIA said, you got to hold your horses there, buddy.
Yeah.
Fucking wild.
Fucking CIA, man.
Yeah. So, you got anything else, or do you have anything you want to add? I know I went on fucking forever, a lot longer than I thought. I'm sorry.
No, I just got a couple of things to show in episode 3 and a couple more businesses. I got a couple FBI slides to show.
Okay. All right.
And a couple quotes, but that's about it, man.
All right. So I guess then we can, just wrap this one up now then. Make it nice, short and sweet, to the point. Hope you all enjoyed it. The next one, it was funny because we had thought that we may have only have done 2 episodes, but even when I was reading a lot of names and places, I did underline and start to look into and saw that some of them are still existing and blah, blah, blah. But I wasn't sure how far we wanted to go. My boy over here has already started digging into other places and found stuff, so now I'm going to have to do the same. So there will be a part 3. I know originally we thought there may only be 2, but, we do what we normally do, and we start looking at names of places and we investigate them and end up with a lot more than we thought originally. So just like in a regular Occult Rejects, it ends up turning into something a lot longer than we normally think when we go to start.
Well, and the thing is with this one in particular is that, it's like episode 1 has to be more or less just telling like the story because it's so nuts. And then episode 2 is showing that what that story is true because here are the documents. And episode 3 will just be kind of us digging into the deeper stuff and wrapping it up and, seeing what we come up with. Because like you said, there are names, businesses that are tied to this. And I'm just curious to see who's still around, who's doing what.
Yeah.
I've already found some wild shit. And of course, it always involves someone tied to a government contract that produces defense computer technology, dude.
Fuck.
Yeah.
I maybe we'll be lucky and we'll find some CT Corp too. Or the corporate. Oh, yeah. Real quick. It's so funny. I don't know what made me. I guess the fact of, and it blows my mind. I think it's so funny, and then we'll wrap it up here. This is completely off base, but almost depending on where I'm going, where I live, if I'm going to make a left or a right away from where I am to go wherever I'm going, I'm literally constantly passing a Brandon Fugel property.
No way.
Oh yeah, it's the fucking signs on the building and everything. I could literally walk to a building that Brandon Fugel owns that has stores in it.
Wow.
I could walk fucking. If I had a good arm, I could maybe fucking hit the building with a rock. Like, I'm that fucking close to this gigantic building. And something, I don't know, last night, I was just like, I'm going to toss Colliers into fucking Bizopedia. I didn't get CT Corp, but you get the corporation company.
Yeah.
I was like, of course. Of course. Why not? Why not?
That's crazy. In New York, I'm surprised.
I think there's one in every state because the guy's he's all over the fucking world. I think, or at least in the United States. He's been going on bragging about how much property he's buying in Hawaii, which is fucking shady in itself. Because we've even talked from going to Hawaii back to, from that boat ride from Hawaii to wherever they went, the Shriners came up with the Order of Quetzalcoatl on that boat ride. Mm-hmm. What's up with Hawaii? Why were they there? I
remember episode 1 of The Finders. Remember, I found that Hawaii connection too.
Yes, something. So I'm sorry, something the fuck up is with Hawaii, I think.
Yeah, it also comes up Hawaii. This is off topic too, but it's important.
Yeah,
Hawaii comes up all the time in any of the WikiLeaks, the Podesta emails, and things like that, bro. Hawaii comes up all the time.
Holy shit.
And the way that the emails are worded are very strange. Literally, it's 2 diplomats or 2 politicians talking to each other, and it says, "I can't wait to come back to your hot dog stand in Hawaii. You have the best hot dogs in Hawaii." And that's the end of the email.
This is something, my opinion, something is up with Hawaii, man. For real.
Yeah. Fucking weird.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so hopefully you guys, everybody who listened, you guys, girls, whoever, hopefully whatever, you got something out of this. Like Lux said before, the first one was really just telling the story. It's so wild. That's an episode in itself. And what we really wanted to get out of this was actually showing that the story and the actual truth, there is truth behind this stuff. The FBI, police departments, and the CIA all acknowledge that this shit is real. So something is going on. And we'll see what we have for the next one. I do want to remind people again, we do have a Venmo and Cash App if you'd like to donate towards my new computer. Definitely also, please, trying to push it a little bit more because I do think it's a cool fucking thing and a cool place to chill if you want to hang out. Check out the Element server. For real. And it's not like I'm pushing it because nobody's there. I'm pushing it because we do have people in there. We have other shows. We have plenty of people in there that just drop a lot of info. Everybody gets along. There's tons of different types of people in there. People who have different beliefs that they hold strongly. And they still get along and still conversate and still exchange information.
It's like the opposite of Twitter.
Yeah. For real. It is the complete opposite of any social media you'll go on. So if you want an environment like that, go check out the Element server. These people who set it up, Eric, Asha, Helen, did tons of work. They even set it up to wherever, I think whenever we make a Twitter post, it drops. Whenever our episodes come out, they drop. Like my episode for my show will drop in my room. The episode for the Occult Rejects automatically drops. They have our RSS feeds. Drops to the Occult Rejects room. If Lux puts out the show, that shit drops in his room. So, like, there's actually a lot with this server. So definitely go check it out. You can even do it web-based. You don't need another friggin' app. Who wants another app on their phone? Especially when Apple's constantly updating their shit. It's just getting annoying now. I don't even want to fucking use my apps. But it is also web-based. You can go to the web on your phone or your computer if you don't want to download another annoying app. So you won't have to worry about notifications popping up. You can just use the web. So.
That was good, man. That sounded like a sponsorship.
Yeah, right. I'm gonna have to hit up Element and ask for fucking sponsors. Be like, yo, I need a new computer.
Right.
What do I got to do? No, but seriously, check that out. I also highly stress to check out all the links on the bottom because you will have my show, this show, and Lux's show. I know for a fact, I think Lux still has more stuff to put out that he's recorded. So, definitely check out the link tree. It has everything and everywhere you can find our stuff. And I also want to stress, fourth time's a charm. We have Rejects and Friends on YouTube. As you can see, I'm putting stuff in there to hopefully help combat YouTube screwing us over for shit they shouldn't be. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm putting all this silly disclaimers in there. But definitely check that out. Knock on wood, it's been going good so far. I haven't had one thing done yet. So I haven't even been told like, oh, this is, copyrighted, but we'll still put it out. Haven't even had that said. So I think might be okay for a while. Now I'll probably screw this up and it'll be taken down the day this drops. But, definitely go and check it out. Because like I said, you get that, you will get our lives. You will get Lux's show. You will get my show as well. It's all-in-one YouTube channel for all of us. We got another one up and running, Rejects and Friends. It's in the link tree. Go check that out. And I'm done. I'll shut the fuck up. And everybody be well. And we'll see you in the next one. Later.